Paris. City of love, romance and dreams. So they say. I used to say it too. But ever since that day, the day of the murder, I've always associated my beloved Paris with death. I was at home having a bath when my editor called.
Collard, get your ass over to the Palais Royal now. You got an interview. With Pierre Carchon. Yes, the Pierre Carchon. No photos, so leave your gear at home. He asked for you personally. Don't ask me why. Anyhow, this could be big, so if he makes a pass, don't forget. Just smile, say yes, and keep taking notes.
So charming and so very apt. Pierre Carchon was a media king, a national hero, and one of the most infamous adulterers in Europe. He and his wife Imelda were just one step down from royalty. Whoa, I hate mimes, but unless you humor them, they don't go away. Here I was, the palace of the Media King and the Ice Queen. I pressed the doorbell and set in motion a chain of events which would change my life forever.
Yes? What is it?
Madame, my name is Nico Collard. I'm here to see Monsieur Carchon.
Come up, we're on the first floor.
Madame Carchon, it's a pleasure to meet you.
Yes, I'm sure.
The Ice Queen was certainly living up to her reputation. Will you be staying for the interview?
Mademoiselle, I know little of my husband's business affairs, and I care even less. I certainly have no intention of watching him pore over yet another pretty little journalist.
Pretty? You're too kind, madame.
Ah, the talented and very beautiful Mademoiselle Collard. Such a pleasure to meet you at last.
Monsieur Carchon, I am honored.
Oh, I'm sure you are.
Call me Pierre, please. But I do not flatter you idly. I was a friend of your father. He was a great man.
My father, he never mentioned.
He and I were very close. And then his death. So tragic. I must... Imelda, your damned cat's in my study again. Another Ming vase, I suppose. Excuse me for one moment, my dear girl.
You journalists are getting younger each year.
Perhaps it's the rest of the world getting older, madame. That was no cat.
My God! What? Monsieur Carchon!
He's dead. I must call the police. You'd better stay here.
There was a man. It was the mime. Do you think he...
Well, I believe we can rule out suicide, don't you?
No wonder they called her the Ice Queen. She would have been top of my list of suspects if I hadn't seen the attacker myself. And if I hadn't come across a couple of murders just like this already. One of the most important men in Europe murdered And here was I, Nico Coulard, alone at the scene of the crime. Should I wait for the cops? Or start my own investigation? It was a no-brainer. The bookcase was filled with obscure first editions. A bust of Pierre Cauchon, humble servant of La France. Pierre Cauchon again. His eyes seemed to follow me around the room. A small round piece of glass had been cut out of the pane. This was a professional job. The killer must have used a ladder to reach the window. He was long gone. Guess he folded that ladder up, popped it in his pocket and took it with him. I didn't want to cut myself and leave blood on the glass. Call me old-fashioned, but I like to keep my DNA to myself. Mimes and guns don't usually go together, but I had an idea that this was no ordinary mime. I'd come across this murderer before, and written about him. The costume killer, at least that's what I'd called him. It was one of my hair clips. My favorite, in fact. It must have fallen when I was knocked down. Some people hate searching corpses for clues. Me, I'm okay with it. Reminds me of an old boyfriend. In his pocket, I found a ticket stamped Bateau de la Conciergerie. Taking the ticket meant I tampered with the evidence. There was no going back now. Cauchon had been shot. Cauchon had been shot. I closed his eyes. It was the least I could do for the poor fellow.
Нет. Нет.
It was a boat ticket stamped Bateau de la Conciergerie. When I was a little girl, Papa used to take me on the Bateau Mouche as a treat. The police could turn up at any minute. Somewhere there were clues to the murder, and I needed to find them. The door was locked. A Louis XIV table with an antique cloth. Imelda had taste. But hey, with a husband that rich, taste is easy. I reckoned that cloth might just turn out to be useful. Even my fingernail wouldn't fit into such a small hole. A magnificent antique table. Imelda had talent, but I certainly wasn't going to tell her that. It was a tube of acrylic paint, French ultramarine. Just the colour I was after for my bathroom.
I'm sorry, I have to go. Someone is...
Young lady, what are you doing?
Oh, this paint. It's my favorite color.
For God's sake, keep the damn stuff.
There was no one I needed to phone. Not until I had solved this case.
Excuse me, madame.
Yes?
I am so sorry for your loss, madame.
No, you're not. You're a journalist. Journalists don't feel sorry.
Not true.
We shall see.
So, her husband took secret boat trips. Did she really need to see the ticket?
You're upset, madame. Please take this.
That is the lace cloth from the table. What can you be thinking?
How did your husband know my father?
I have no idea.
You didn't know him? Thierry Collard?
Pierre knew a lot of people I didn't know, most of them women.
Why would a mime want to kill your husband?
Pierre had plenty of enemies. Half the husbands in Paris for a start.
Why did your husband send for me? What did he want to discuss?
I have no idea. His business was his business.
He never told you anything.
No, and frankly I preferred it that way. This is quite a scoop for you. I suppose you're already inventing the headlines.
Just because I am a journalist.
Don't patronise me. You're all cut from the same cloth. Do you have any moral sense at all?
Yes, that's why I do this job.
You do it to see your name in print.
As if. My editor gets the byline, I just do the work.
Well, don't expect my sympathy.
The police will be here soon, madame. Is there anybody you would like me to contact? Family, friends?
No, I have no family. Pierre and I were... He was all I had, really. Not much, was it? The dutiful wife. That was my role. He never talked, never let me in.
I know one thing, madame.
What?
If you want to find out who killed your husband, then you let me do the job, not the police.
Why? How do I know I can trust you?
Your husband invited me here today because he needed me. I think he knew somebody wanted to kill him, and he knew I could help.
I doubt it was your database he was after.
You're wrong. I was onto his killers already, I am sure of it. Please, you owe it to him.
I don't know.
All I need is a few more minutes to look around before the police come.
You really do have a moral sense, don't you? I trust so few people. And perhaps Pierre really did think that you could help. Of course it wouldn't have stopped him seducing you too. Here, take this. It's the key to the drawing room next to the library at the end of the hall. It was Pierre's room. I rarely went in there. I couldn't. I was too scared of what I might find.
Thank you. I promise you won't regret this. A fine Baroque door.
It would look great in my apartment.
Now we were getting somewhere. I didn't need the lights on. It was light enough already. The painting showed the Cachons together, in love. As the poet said, the past is a different country. Or did I read that in a fortune cookie? The painting was attached firmly to the wall. There was the very faintest of clicks. Behind the picture was a safe. The safe was locked. I needed the key. The safe's lock was too secure for me to pick. How come it always works in movies, huh? It was the wrong kind of key. This wasn't the time for me to lie on the sofa doing my Marie Antoinette impression, though it is very popular at parties, especially with gay guys. Don't ask me why. As expected, the desk was yet another priceless antique. Yawn. The blotter and in tray had clearly been placed with mathematical precision. I didn't want to take the tray, but I knew that I could use it. My heart skipped a beat. It was a carved elephant. But not just any carved elephant. It had been made by my father. I knew for certain because in my apartment I had its exact twin, carved into a box he had made. So Cauchon had known my father. They really must have been friends. I decided to take the carved elephant. It clearly meant nothing to Imelda. I didn't need a sheet of blotting paper. Not while it was blank. The paint would have just soaked into the blotting paper, but the idea...
Нет. Нет. Нет.
I'd spread blue paint over the bottom of the tray. It was ruined. I was a very bad girl, but also quite a clever one. I didn't want to take the... In a way,
Нет. 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 Нет.
Locked. Not surprising, really. It didn't work, but I guess it would have been surprising. Aha! Nico, you are just so damn good at this stuff. Instead of comforting Imelda, I was ransacking her flat. Why? Because there was something going on here, and I had to get answers before the cops arrived. And hey, she'd been rude to me, so she had it coming. A key. Maybe a safe key. In the safe was some kind of artifact. There were strange symbols on its surface. It looked like the printer's blocks I'd made at art school. If there was one thing I'd learned about symbols, they are always important. But these symbols scratched into stone were impossible to read. I needed to find a way of printing them. At least the stone was round. But what could I use for ink? And what could I print on? Sure, I was stealing, but I knew Imelda didn't know about the artifact, and Carchon was past caring. The artifact was like an old printer's block, covered in symbols. I rolled the artifact in the paint until it was completely coated.
Нет.
Genius! The roller and the paint worked just as I planned, but what did it say?
Нет.
It was some kind of coded message. It read, "Sub judice." I may not have learned a lot as a journalist, but that was a term I knew well. It means a legal case that is before the courts. Below it was a sequence of letters that made no sense. I suddenly realized there was a connection between the boat ticket and the coded message. The boat ticket was stamped Bateau de la Conciergerie. The Conciergerie on the Ile de la Cité, by the river, housed the ancient law courts. So, sub judice could in this case mean literally under the law courts, below the Conciergerie. I was pretty sure I'd found all I could here. And besides, all this opulence was making me pine for my regular life of poverty. This was a huge story. It was also one heck of a puzzle with a lot of pieces missing. But I was going to crack it. And if I could just remember the name of that fancy prize you get for being an ace journalist, I was definitely going to win it this time.
Did you find anything useful?
This carving, do you know anything about it?
It was Pierre's. What does the statue have to do with...
Please, I need to know.
He was given it by a friend, something to do with Africa.
He never explained any more.
No, but I think it was important to him, always on display. Why?
It was carved by my father.
Oh, I see. I didn't know.
Imelda, I will do everything I can to find the killer.
Thank you, my dear.
And if the police ask...
Don't worry. You were never here.
Sub judice was the key. I was going to have to find a way under the Conciergerie. I decided to head straight for the quayside on the Ile de la Cité. If there was a way of getting under the Conciergerie, it would have to be from there. Carchon wasn't the type for messing about on the river. He was up to something down here. Something that got him killed. An old boyfriend of mine owned a barge once.
dampest relationship I ever had. In every way. The fence wouldn't move. This fence wouldn't move either. I tried pushing the fence, but it wouldn't move. A strange pair of locks stopped the latches from releasing the gate. Yes! One down, one to go.
Nothing like a good convent education for honing your lockpicking skills. The cross looked familiar. I'd seen it before. It was embroidered on the lace cloth I'd picked up at Carchon's apartment. I knew I was on the right track. For a room full of junk, that was one very sophisticated lock system. This place was definitely fishy, in more ways than one. I really didn't want to pull the fence back up and risk trapping myself in this place. Oops. An old shell case. I wondered what that was doing there. The brass case was smooth and perfectly round. Moving the skiff would only damage it more. No handle, nothing obvious. But there had to be a way to open it. The words Sinister and Dexter were carved on either side. Now any good convent girl like me knows the old Roman for left, right, right. But what did it mean here? Nothing happened. Nothing happened. The hole was too small even for my little hand. Mystery solved. Carchon's stone cylinder slotted into the hole with a satisfying click. A satisfying click told me I turned it to the right position. It felt like tumblers in a safe. I must have made a mistake. The mechanism reset. A Another click. Another step closer. I made a mistake. Another click. Oh no! I had a another. Oh no! A satisfying click told me I turned it to the right. Another. Oh no! Another. I love the sound of locks clicking open. Ut lex vel ut next sumito. To the law or unto death, submit. I guess these people didn't believe in liberté, égalité, or fraternité. Yes, I'll admit it. I was a swot at school. I also wore lipstick and the nuns never knew. Oh my god! The slab came down with a hell of a force. With nothing to hold it up, the cross looked familiar. Lifting the cross closed the entrance door and also opened some kind of stone panel. Ingenious. The stone cross was propped up. Now I was getting somewhere. I touched the slot. Nothing bad happened, which was good. I've always been attached to my fingers. This slot was designed for something specific. But what? A round slot, precisely. No way would I be able to force the door open. I removed the shell case. Moving the skiff. The cross looked familiar. I'd seen it before. I wasn't leaving yet. I had a hunch there was more to find. I wasn't leaving. This wouldn't hold the cross up. I needed to use something sturdier. This wouldn't hold. I needed to use something sturdier. This wouldn't hold. I needed. I touched the slot. Nothing bad happened, which was good. This slot was It was the beautiful elephant my father had carved. A safe key. A round slot, precisely carved. No way would I be. I removed the shell case. I removed the stone. The artifact slotted into the hole perfectly. Behind the old walls, I could hear some kind of mechanism groaning into life, but whatever had been triggered had now jammed. The gap was too thin for me to get a grip. I needed something thin enough to prise the door open. I was going to need something a lot stronger than a hair clip to free the door. I removed the shell. The cross didn't drop back down. Some kind of mechanism was holding it up. The gap was too narrow. I needed something flat. The cross didn't drop back down. Some kind of mechanism was holding it up. The panel wouldn't move. The slab was too heavy for me to lift. Ut lex ver. Moving the skiff would only damage it more. I'd wrecked the skiff. Not that it was particularly seaworthy anyway. It was almost as if the fence was intended to double as a bridge. Moving the skiff would only damage it more.
Нет. 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 Нет.
It was the drawing room key.
Нет. Нет.
The brass case was smooth and perfectly round.
Нет. 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 Нет.
The cross looked familiar. The cross looked... I removed the shell. The gap was too narrow. I was going to need something a lot... A hidden door. This was getting interest. I was going to have to find a way to pry... The gap was too thin for me to get a grip. I needed something thin enough to prise the door open. No way would I be able to.
Нет.
The cloth was embroidered with an unusual symbol. It was a boat ticket stamped Bateau, a safe key, a safe key. It was one of my hair clips. My favorite. It was the drawing room key. The cross was while Cachon's stone cylinder was in, the door back out remained closed. The stone slab had flat. I removed the shell case. Another good use for a shell case. Another secret room. Somebody had something to hide. Wow! Through the darkness, I could see that this was a stateroom. But for what purpose? And how did it tie in with Cachon? Amazing! The thing still worked. The room lit up bright as day. A door like that always has something important behind it. That wasn't going to help. That was... I wasn't going to find anything in this old desk. It hadn't been used for years. The flags had faded, but their message was still pretty clear. Fascist regalia, a message of hate. It was pretty clear from the lack of dust that someone had been working very recently at this desk. Oh my God! The sheet was a printout with my personal information. Everything from my favorite food to my waist size. They were right about chocolate, but come on guys, I'm a size 10. There was even a picture of me, taken with a telephoto lens. Carchon wouldn't have taken these pictures himself. This was big. And organized. I was part of it, and people were getting murdered. One thing was clear. Someone connected to Carchon had been... One thing was clear. The dregs at the bottom of the mug hadn't dried out or gone moldy. It wasn't more than a day old. This was the article I'd written about the costume killer. My suspicions were right. Carchon had cut it out. 2 businessmen had been killed. One in Italy, one in Japan. In each case the killer had worn a costume. A penguin and then a snowman. But that wasn't the only link between the 2 murders. Both the victims had been big media do-gooders, and I proved they were just the opposite. So, how did they fit in with Carchon? My articles about the costume killer. My article. Inside the drawer, I found a note written in some kind of code.
looked at the note. It read, Pierre, full report to follow. But this is too urgent to wait. Arno and Yamada both dead. This is not a coincidence. Indeed, it seems that all of us who came together in July are in danger. Take great care. X. I wasn't the only one to make the connection between the costume killer murders. I'd been right all along. That was why he had asked to meet me. But what did I know that he didn't? Damn! Don't you just hate it when that happens? A photo, long lost, had fallen down the back of the drawer. It was very old, but there was no mistaking the guy in the foreground. Carchon. Behind him were soldiers, a burning village, and a corpse. The photograph was cropped on the right-hand side. Somebody else in the picture obviously didn't want to be in it anymore. I wasn't surprised. This was Africa in the 60s. An uprising was being brutally suppressed. And here was Mr. Media himself, Carchon, doing the suppressing. The photograph was not just powerful evidence. It was also my ticket to one explosive story. I had enough for a story, an amazing story that was going to make my reputation and blow Carchon's to pieces. I needed to get home fast and start typing.
Bonsoir, Collard.
Nico, it's Ronnie.
Hey, Ronnie, you cracked open the champagne yet?
Are you crazy?
What's wrong? Wait a minute. You didn't print it, did you?
Course I didn't print.
That's the best piece I've written.
The last, as far as I'm concerned.
It's important.
It's suicidal. You can't destroy a national hero.
He deserved it.
His corpse isn't even cold.
Ronnie, 2 hours ago I told you what I'd found. You loved it. You begged me to write it up immediately.
2 hours is a long time in newspapers, Nico.
Someone's got to you, haven't they?
Listen up, Nicole, and listen good. Pierre Carchon had a lot of friends. Powerful friends. For your own sake.
Forget what happened.
You got it. End of conversation. Good night.
This should have been my big break, but I knew there was nowhere else to sell the story. If Ronnie wouldn't print it, nobody would.
Bonsoir, Collard.
Mademoiselle Collard, my name is Plantard. I need to talk to you about your story. Your Pierre Carchon story.
How did you know about that?
There are people out there, madame, who will be very upset by this story.
Oh, really? Well, it's their lucky day. It's been spiked.
Yes, I know. We must meet.
We must?
I have information relating to your costume killer stories. Tomorrow morning, 8 a.m., Café de la Chandelle Verte, Rue Alain Court. I shall be wearing a grey overcoat. You must talk to no one about this.
You can't tell me what to...
Tomorrow at 8. I'll be waiting.
People complain about newspaper articles all the time, but not usually before they're printed. I was beginning to feel scared. This guy, Plantard, could I trust him? Should I meet him or forget the whole business? I didn't have an answer.
I'd only been in Paris for a week, but already I'd fallen in love with the city. My latest discovery was a little cafe, La Chandelle Verte. I was pretty sure the waitress was taking a shine to me. That old Stobart charm, I guess. Little did I know my reverie was about to be so rudely interrupted. As I picked myself up, I was really angry. 1 minute I'm on vacation, the next minute some clown's blown me up. I knew right away what I was going to do. I was going to find that clown and bring him to justice. Because justice matters. Justice is up there with liberty. And equality. And, fraternity. After all, that's why I'd studied law, wasn't it? Well, that, money, of course. The column was devoted exclusively to rumor, gossip, and sensationalism. The big story was about the brutal murder of a French media magnate, shot down in cold blood. The guy oozed confidence, like a regular French statesman. The big story was about the brutal... The column was devoted...
Передовица повествовала о приезде Нобелевского лауреата из какой-то труднопроизносимой восточноевропейской страны.
The column was devoted exclusively...
Передовица... Затем я заметил надпись в самом низу страницы. Она гласила «Салах ад-Дин, 1345». Стоять! Не стреляйте, я не виновен. Я американец.
Что, не можешь прийти в себя, а?
Я требую встречи с американским консулом.
Бросай оружие, лицом на пол, быстро!
Уберите свое оружие, сержант Муэ. Я приношу свои извинения, но вам придется пройти с нами.
Я арестован?
Нет, мне просто надо задать вам пару вопросов. Пройдемте в кафе. Какой беспорядок! Это переходит все границы.
Прекратите, мсье!
А вам не приходит в голову, что он мертв?
Да, мсье, но я лучше проверю, дышит ли он. Кроме того, я предполагаю, что убийца может притворяться мертвым. Однако в данном случае этот мужчина мертв.
Допросите девушку, если вы на это способны. Итак, к делу. Ваше имя?
Джордж Стобарт, я из Калифорнии.
Итак, что привело вас в Париж, мсье Стобарт?
Я путешествую по Европе.
Да, город прекрасен в это время года, не так ли?
Да, вы правы, если, конечно, не считать взрывов.
В момент взрыва вы находились возле кафе?
Да, я сидел за столиками на улице. Мне повезло, что меня не убило. Инспектор пропустил мимо ушей мое замечание.
Вы видели, как убитый входил в кафе?
Да.
Он был один?
Да.
Он с вами разговаривал?
Нет, его больше интересовала официантка.
Вы видели еще кого-нибудь в кафе?
Да, здесь был еще парень, одетый клоуном. У него была гармошка.
Гармошка? Так, картина начинает проясняться. И она не из приятных. С девушкой все в порядке?
Жить будет. Она подтверждает показания американца. Клоун с гармошкой, без сомнения, опытный и эксцентричный мастер переодеваний.
Хорошо. Ладно, я уже наслушался вас.
Что вы имеете в виду?
Я убедился, что вы ничего не знаете, вы свободны. Надеюсь, этот маленький инцидент не омрачит в дальнейшем ваш отпуск.
Вы думаете, я в безопасности? Не могли бы ли вы мне дать какой-нибудь совет?
Что я могу посоветовать? Будьте внимательны и держитесь подальше от странных личностей.
И не переходите дорогу до тех пор, пока на светофоре не загорится зелененький человечек.
Прекрасный совет.
Говорю вам откровенно, мсье, вы в полной безопасности. Если вспомните что-нибудь важное, пожалуйста, свяжитесь со мной. Моя визитка.
Спасибо.
Вот и все, вы можете идти.
Не так-то много улик, мсье.
На первый взгляд, да, а что если обратиться к подсознанию? Когда бы открылись двери восприятия...
Вы это серьезно, мсье? Я думал, ваш интерес к психодетекции был чисто академическим.
Прошу прощения, мадемуазель. Привет, мое имя Джордж Стобарт.
А, американец, судя по имени.
Да, точно, я отдыхаю в Париже. Что-то вроде отпуска.
Вы были здесь, когда разорвалась бомба?
Конечно. Сидел прямо перед кафе.
Вы не видели человека лет 60, одетого в шляпу и пальто?
Я не верил своим ушам. Она даже не спросила, как я себя чувствую. Да, он зашел внутрь как раз перед взрывом. А вы, случайно, не его родственница?
О, вовсе нет. Я Николь Кулард из Ля Либерте.
Что это? Что-то вроде ночного...
О, нет.
Вы... Через...
Вы...
Я...
О, бо...
Надеюсь, еще...
Пока...